Hey everybody, it's Kyle Jetzel, your driven autism dad. Hey, today I want to talk about how the experts, specialists, and therapists are fibbing to you. And to do that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our journey. I'll never forget when we got the diagnosis. My wife and I were kind of relieved, and this was 20 years ago or so. And what is it now? 2023. So it would have been 2003. Back then, we knew a lot less about autism. There was a lot less diagnosis of it. But I'll never forget when we finally got the diagnosis, my wife and I looked at each other, we were kind of relieved because now we thought, okay, now that we know what's going on, we can get him the help he needs. We can get him to the experts and the specialists and the therapists, and we can get our lives back. Because up until that point, my wife and I thought we had lost all ability to parent. Our first two typical boys, although they were feral and wild, uh, we seem to be doing a pretty good job with managing them, disciplining them, teaching them right and wrong, getting compliance in a lot of situations. Obviously, it was still hard, but because they're boys and that's what kids do. But when my third son came along, Eric, it was completely different. And when we got the diagnosis, we were kind of, like I said, relieved because now we thought, okay, now we can get him the help we need and he needs, and we can get back our happy, thriving, loving family. Well, years later, thousands of dollars, hundreds of specialists and meetings, and trying to fight to get him to go to therapies and special. I mean, we were still in the same boat. We were still struggling as a family with the stress and the meltdowns and everything that comes along with that. And it got me to thinking about how, uh, I thought that taking him to the experts and the specialists and making sure I got him to all these therapies was going to solve our at-home autism challenges, the meltdowns, the rage, the violence, the biting, breaking things, all those things. I thought that by doing what the experts and specialists and therapists said, following their process, it was going to solve those problems. And we discovered, and you may have too, that it didn't at all. Well, at some point, I got a little frustrated and I thought to myself, I need to go back and start talking to these guys and finding out what their goals are and if any of their goals align with my goals as far as parenting at home autism challenges, the all the things that happen at home. And as I interviewed experts and specialists and therapists and just talked to them about, they said to me, we never said we were going to help you, lower stress at home. I said, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure you mentioned that if he was better, could communicate better, it would lower stress, or if we created structure, it would lower stress, or if we helped him, he was very nonverbal early on. If we gave him ways to communicate and speak with us, it would lower stress. And they said, no, 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 we never said that. And I said, okay, so all the things you're doing, tell me what you are doing. Now they were able to describe the things that they were doing that certainly were helping our son, but none of it included uh, lowering stress in our home. And so it became really a journey for me at that point, because as I looked at parenting books, as I looked at general parenting books, none of them had any good techniques or strategies or processes or anything I could follow for my son, Eric, who's more severe on the autism spectrum. And it was almost like, I remember thinking, it was like, okay, I'm being given a test on a in a class I never took, and there's no guide for this class whatsoever. There was just no guidance. And specifically, I think because even though there were books on autism and parenting your kids at home, all of them gave you very specific strategies. But as you well know, and I will know, every child is unique and every child is different. What works for one child may not work for the next. And we were failing miserably with all the different things we were trying. And so it became our goal to basically create a criteria for our family, basically a guide for our family. And that is what our book is about, Autism Parenting Secrets. Now, before you say, I'm not reading another book, I've read hundreds of books, none of them worked, I don't want to read the same crap rehashed. I want to tell you this about our book. It's completely different in that this is why. Um, our book teaches you not strategies, but it teaches you how to create strategies specifically for your unique needs and your unique child. Okay. And what that means is because none of the typical strategies worked for us, we had to kind of create a framework that allowed us to understand exactly who our child was, exactly what we wanted long term and what he needed long term, and then a series of steps that we could follow that got us that result that we wanted long term. And if you read the book, you'll see this in detail. We lay it out. It's a framework you can follow today to create strategies for anything your kids are doing. Now, I will tell you this, we created strategies very specifically. Now, the final part of the strategy, though, is you got to be able to adjust. Okay. We're not going to get things right the first time, but it's worth it to continually try and get things right for our kids. And so as we created these strategies, we adjusted, and we were able to see success. And, obviously all of this is based on parenting at-home autism challenges in a spirit of love. And that's the very first step in every strategy we created is put yourself in the spirit of love. Even when things are hard, by the way, we have a strategy in the book for that. When things get really hard, we created a strategy for how to put us in a spirit of love so we could manage that situation in a spirit of love, even when it got really hard. So the strategies don't just extend to our kids, but to us too, to be better parents. So this book is entirely different than any book you've seen before. I want you to grab a copy. And we created strategies for everything in our family, from winning meltdowns to potty training to getting our kids to eat to defiance. One of our sons was oppositional defiance disorder. This strategy took me about a year to create, but it now works with him. And we can get him to comply based on the steps in this strategy. Arguing kids that press hot buttons, that say things to upset you, that want to argue. If you get burnt out as a parent, there's a strategy we can put in place. We put in place for us. Meltdowns, I talked about that. Rage, violence, biting, kicking, screaming, breaking things. All those things that you may be struggling with, you can create your very own strategy. And I'm going to teach you how to create your strategy in the book. So go grab a copy. I can't wait for you to get a copy. The very best thing about all this is if you do grab a copy of the book right now, I will give you a companion course. It's a 5-part companion course that explains these strategies and techniques and the principles behind them, so that if you don't like to read necessarily, you'll still want this, because it's a $99 course. I'm throwing it in for free just for buying the book. So do that today. I can't wait to hear about your success, and I can't wait to join in with that. That excites me more than anything else. So I'll talk to you next time. Go grab a book. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.